Imagine a plate of perfectly roasted beef, crispy golden potatoes, and rich, savory gravy. But wait, there's one dish that steals the show, and that's Yorkshire pudding. It's not just a side, it's the star of the Sunday roast. But why is it that this humble, puffed-up batter has become such a sacred part of British tradition? How did Yorkshire pudding, once born out of necessity, rise to become the ultimate symbol of comfort food in the UK? Let's dive in and discover the fascinating story behind this crispy, airy masterpiece that every Sunday roast simply can't do without. When you think about a classic Sunday roast, you probably picture tender, juicy roast beef, crispy potatoes, and rich gravy cascading over everything. But here's the kicker. None of that would be complete without one thing: the Yorkshire pudding. Light, golden, and so irresistibly crispy on the outside, yet soft on the inside. This simple dish has become a symbol of British culinary pride. But Yorkshire pudding wasn't always a luxury. It started out as a clever and thrifty way to make the most of what you had. In fact, it's a dish that's as much about ingenuity as it is about flavor. The origins of Yorkshire pudding stretch back centuries, to a time when people didn't have the luxury of a supermarket trip for every ingredient. In 18th century Britain, meat was a luxury, and the wealthy roasted big cuts of beef in open fireplaces. The poor, however, had to make do. They couldn't afford to waste the fat that dripped from the meat, so they created something ingenious: Yorkshire pudding. This wasn't the airy puff we know today. It was dense and filling, cooked in the drippings beneath a roasting joint, and served as a first course to stretch out the meal and fill hungry bellies before the main event. That's right, Yorkshire pudding wasn't always the star of the plate. It was the first act. So how did this humble batter, designed to make the most of meat drippings, become the crispy golden icon we love today? It all comes down to technique and timing. The key to a perfect Yorkshire pudding is the batter itself, a simple combination of eggs, flour, milk, and a pinch of salt. But there's an art to making it rise to towering perfection. The batter needs to rest so the gluten can relax, and it has to be poured into a hot, preheated pan, ideally with some sizzling fat to jumpstart the rising action. But here's the real magic: the high temperature. The oven needs to be scalding, creating steam that pushes the batter upwards and turns it into a puffed-up masterpiece. The result? A golden, crispy exterior with a soft, almost custard-like interior. Each bite is a contrast of textures that perfectly complements the savory richness of roast beef. Here's the interesting part. Yorkshire pudding didn't even get its name until the 18th century, and it wasn't originally meant to accompany roast beef. In fact, it was initially served as a starter, often with gravy or made into a savory pie. But as the tradition of the Sunday roast grew in popularity throughout the 19th century, something shifted. The Yorkshire pudding evolved into the essential side dish we recognize today. Not just as a meal stretcher, but as a delicious partner for that slow roasted beef. It went from being the humble filler to a proud star, standing tall on the plate next to perfectly roasted potatoes, vegetables, and a generous pour of gravy. Now let's talk about why Yorkshire pudding is so much more than just food. It's tradition, it's nostalgia, it's a symbol of family, of gathering together for the Sunday roast. A meal that has brought generations of Brits together. There's something undeniably special about the ritual of gathering around the table and cutting into that golden tower of Yorkshire pudding. Ask any Brit and they'll tell you. Making the perfect Yorkshire pudding is almost a rite of passage. Whether you're adding a little extra crispy crunch or experimenting with batter thickness, everyone has their secret technique. It's a matter of pride. It's the one dish that can make or break the Sunday roast, and when it's done right, it's sheer perfection. But beyond all the cooking techniques and traditions, Yorkshire pudding is a reminder of British resilience and creativity. This isn't just a delicious dish. It's the product of generations of home cooks finding ways to make something beautiful out of necessity. Back when food was scarce, this was a way of making sure that even if the meat wasn't plentiful, the meal was still hearty, comforting, and satisfying. It's a symbol of making the most of what you've got. It's a story of innovation, born from a time when people had to be resourceful, and yet it's remained deeply tied to the heart of British home cooking. And let's not forget how versatile it is. While the classic pairing is roast beef and gravy, Yorkshire pudding has made its way into all sorts of adaptations. In pubs across the UK, you'll find toad in the hole, where sausages are baked right into the batter, another classic British comfort dish that has roots in Yorkshire pudding. For those looking to experiment, mini Yorkshire puddings stuffed with everything from crispy bacon to roasted vegetables have become party favorites, transforming this once simple dish into a showstopper for all occasions. And don't even get us started on the sweet versions. Yorkshire pudding, served with syrup or custard, or even drizzled with fruit, has become a dessert of its own. But no matter how you dress it up, the heart of Yorkshire pudding remains unchanged, a dish that is as comforting as it is timeless. And here's the real clincher. Yorkshire pudding is a dish that's as much about community as it is about flavor. It's about the Sunday roast tradition, gathering around the table, breaking bread with family, sharing stories, and celebrating the weekend with a meal that feels like home. In every corner of the UK, from city pubs to rural kitchens, this dish unites people, bringing them together over a meal that's as old as the country itself. In an age when fast food and convenience meals often take the spotlight, the Sunday roast with Yorkshire pudding remains a reminder of the joy found in slowing down, in savoring simple, lovingly prepared food, and in celebrating tradition. Yorkshire pudding is no longer just a filler. It's the heart and soul of the Sunday roast. From its humble origins to its current status as a beloved national treasure, this crispy, fluffy dish has earned its place at the table, not only as a culinary staple, but as a symbol of British tradition and family. Whether you're making it with beef, sausages, or even sweet toppings, Yorkshire pudding continues to inspire home cooks and bring people together. So next Sunday, when you sit down to that roast, remember, Yorkshire pudding isn't just a side dish. It's a celebration of comfort, history, and the power of food to unite us all.